What if I told you that the strongest security system ever used on farms was not invented in a factory, and it did not require electricity, cameras, or alarms? It grew quietly along the edges of fields, planted by people who understood that nature could guard land better than any machine. These living barriers stopped animals, slowed intruders, and protected entire homesteads long before metal fences covered the countryside. And here is the strange part. Many of those natural defenses were so effective that when farmers could no longer grow them fast enough, humans invented something new to replace them: barbed wire. The fencing industry would prefer you never learn about these plants, because once you see how powerful they are, you may realize the best protection for your land has been growing in the wild all along. Some of these plants grow faster than traditional hedges. Some form barriers so dense that livestock refuse to even approach them, and one of them once guarded European farms for nearly 1,000 years. Today, we are uncovering 13 forgotten plants that farmers once trusted to protect entire properties. Plants that grow into living walls, plants that defend your land without steel or concrete, and plants that modern landscaping catalogs almost never talk about. They are ranked from surprisingly effective to absolutely unstoppable. Number 13, Rugosa Rose, the thorned guardian. Along the windy coasts of northern Europe and Japan, farmers planted long rows of rugosa roses to stop wandering animals from entering their crops. At first glance, it looks like a beautiful flowering shrub, but look closer. The branches are covered in dense, curved thorns that weave together as the plant grows. Over time, those branches tangle into a barrier so thick that even determined animals turn away. Rugosa rose grows about 3 to 5 feet per year in good soil, spreading outward to create a dense, defensive hedge. In summer, the plants explode with fragrant pink and white flowers. By autumn, those flowers become bright red rose hips packed with vitamin C. This means your living fence does 2 jobs at once. It protects your land, and it produces edible fruit used for teas and preserves. Plant them 3 feet apart, and within a few seasons, the branches knit together into a thorned wall that few animals attempt to cross. For anyone who wants security wrapped inside a beautiful flowering hedge, Rugosa Rose is the thorned guardian that quietly protects your boundaries. But Rugosa Rose only protects at ground level. The next plant on this list rises far higher, forming vertical green towers that once shielded entire villages from wind and wandering livestock. Number 12, Lombardy Poplar, the silent sentinel. When travelers crossed the plains of Europe centuries ago, they often saw tall, narrow trees standing in perfect lines across the horizon. Those were Lombardy poplars. Farmers planted them to mark property lines, block harsh winds, and create towering visual barriers between fields. What makes Lombardy poplar remarkable is its shape. Instead of spreading outward like most trees, it grows straight upward in narrow columns. A mature tree can reach 60 feet tall while staying only a few feet wide, and it grows fast. Young trees can shoot upward 6 to 8 feet in a single year, creating a towering green screen far quicker than most privacy trees. Plant them 8 feet apart, and they form a wall of tall living pillars that hide everything behind them. For blocking distant views, shielding open farmland, or creating dramatic vertical boundaries, Lombardy poplar becomes the silent sentinel watching over your property. But tall trees alone cannot stop determined animals. The next plant on this list was once used by medieval farmers to create something far stronger: a living fence that livestock simply could not pass. And some of those barriers still stand today. Number 11, Hawthorn, the iron hedge. Across the British countryside, there are hedges older than entire cities in America. Many were planted nearly 1,000 years ago, and they are still standing. Those hedges are made from hawthorn. At first glance, hawthorn looks like a simple flowering shrub. In spring, it fills with clouds of white blossoms that attract bees and pollinators. But beneath those flowers are branches armed with long, hardened thorns. When hawthorn plants are grown close together and pruned each year, the branches weave into a dense wall of wood and thorns. Farmers once trained them using a technique called hedge laying, bending and weaving the stems into living barriers. The result was something remarkable, a fence that animals refused to challenge, yet continued growing stronger every year. Hawthorn grows about 2 to 3 feet annually and can live for centuries with minimal care. Plant them 18 inches apart, and within a few seasons, the hedge becomes nearly impenetrable. For anyone who wants a living fence that might outlast wooden fencing by generations, hawthorn is the iron hedge that time itself could not erase. Hawthorn protected farms for centuries. But the next plant on this list adds something unexpected to the idea of a living barrier. Because while it grows into a dense hedge, it also fills your garden with food. Number 10. Mulberry, the feeding fence. For more than 4,000 years, farmers across Asia planted mulberry trees along the edges of their land. At first, it was not for fruit. It was for silkworms, which feed almost exclusively on mulberry leaves. But farmers quickly discovered something else. Mulberry trees grow fast, very fast. Young trees can add 3 to 6 feet of growth each year, forming thick branching canopies that block views through their dense summer foliage. When planted in rows 6 to 8 feet apart, mulberries create a leafy screen that hides fields, gardens, and homes from outside view. But the real surprise arrives in early summer. Clusters of deep purple berries appear along the branches, tasting like a blend of blackberry and grape. Birds flock to the trees, often ignoring nearby fruit crops in favor of the mulberries. That makes these trees something clever farmers have used for generations: a decoy harvest. Birds focus on the mulberry fence while leaving your blueberries, strawberries, and garden crops mostly untouched. Mulberry tolerates drought, poor soil, and neglect while continuing to grow and produce fruit. For anyone who wants their living fence to provide both privacy and food, mulberry becomes the feeding fence that rewards you every summer, but mulberries protect mostly through density. The next plant on this list protects with something far more intimidating: thorns strong enough to stop animals, and sometimes people. Number 9. Black locust, the thorned fortress. Early American settlers quickly learned that black locust was one of the toughest trees in North America. The wood was legendary. Fence posts cut from black locust could sit underground for 50 years without rotting. Entire barns were built using its nearly indestructible timber. But the living tree itself had another advantage: sharp, defensive thorns. These thorns grow along young branches and create a barrier that animals instinctively avoid. Combined with the tree's dense branching structure, a row of black locust quickly becomes a natural security wall. And it grows quickly. Black locust can gain 4 to 6 feet of height per year when young, filling space with tough branches and bright green foliage. There is also something unusual happening underground. Black locust is a nitrogen fixer. Its roots pull nitrogen from the air and add it to the surrounding soil, naturally fertilizing the land around it. So your fence does something rare. It actually improves the ground where it grows. Plant them 8 feet apart, and you will soon have a thorned barrier that protects your property while enriching your soil at the same time. For farmers who wanted protection and better land, black locust became the thorned fortress guarding their fields. But not every living fence relies on thorns. Some defend your space in a quieter way, by simply growing so thick that no one can see through them. Number 8. Privet, the hidden wall. The Romans understood something about boundaries. When their empire expanded across Europe, they planted long hedges of privet to mark property lines, surround villas, and divide farmland. 2,000 years later, gardeners still use the same plant for exactly the same reason. Privet grows fast, roughly 2 to 3 feet every year, and responds beautifully to trimming. Cut it once and it grows thicker. Cut it again and it becomes even denser. Over time, the branches knit together into a solid green wall that blocks views from both sides. Semi-evergreen varieties hold most of their leaves through winter, while deciduous types offer faster growth during the warm months. In early summer, the hedge fills with small white flowers that attract bees and beneficial insects. Plant privet 12 inches apart, and within 3 years, you can shape a perfectly smooth living fence taller than most wooden panels. For anyone who wants a traditional hedge that has defined property lines since the days of ancient Rome, privet is the hidden wall that quietly does its job year after year. But while privet forms a smooth wall, the next plant grows into something far more dramatic, a barrier that towers upward faster than almost anything in the natural world. Number 7, Empress Tree, the Sky Runner. In China, the Empress Tree has been cultivated for over 2,000 years. Legend says families once planted one when a daughter was born. By the time she married, the tree was large enough to provide wood for furniture and musical instruments. The reason is simple. This tree grows at an astonishing speed. Under ideal conditions, the Empress Tree can shoot upward 10 to 15 feet in a single growing season. Its enormous heart-shaped leaves spread wide, forming thick shade and visual screening within months. Those massive leaves create instant privacy during the summer, while the fast-growing trunk lifts the canopy higher every year. In spring, the tree bursts into clusters of soft purple flowers that appear before the leaves emerge, covering the branches in color. Plant them 10 feet apart, and they create towering green umbrellas that block views while adding dramatic height to your landscape. For anyone who wants the fastest rising screen nature can provide, the Empress Tree is the sky runner racing toward the clouds. But even the fastest tree on Earth cannot match the next plant on this list for one simple reason. Because this plant does not just grow quickly, it multiplies, and when farmers discovered what it could do, they planted it across entire continents. Number 6, Willow, the living wall. For thousands of years, farmers across Europe planted rows of willow along streams, canals, and property lines. At first, it was simply because willow loved wet soil where other trees struggled. But over time, they discovered something extraordinary. Willow branches root almost anywhere. Cut a stick in late winter, push it into moist soil, and within weeks it begins growing roots and leaves of its own. Entire fences were created this way, planted from nothing more than bundles of branches. Once established, willow grows incredibly fast. Many varieties shoot upward 6 to 10 feet per year, filling space with long, flexible stems and dense foliage. But the real magic happens when those branches are woven together. Farmers often braided young willow stems while they were flexible, creating living lattice fences that continued growing stronger every year. The woven stems eventually fused together, forming a permanent living structure. Plant them 5 feet apart, and in just a few seasons, the branches knit into a thick green wall that screens everything behind it. For anyone who wants a living fence that can literally be woven into shape, willow becomes the living wall built by nature itself. But willow grows best in moist soil. The next plant thrives almost anywhere, and it has been guarding farms across Europe for more than 2,000 years. Number 5, hazel, the woven guardian. Long before metal fencing was common, European farmers relied on hazel to create flexible, durable hedges around their land. Hazel trees grow quickly, adding 3 to 5 feet of growth each year while producing multiple stems from the base. That natural branching makes the plant perfect for hedge building. Farmers traditionally coppiced hazel, cutting the stems back every few years to encourage new straight shoots. Those shoots were then woven horizontally between living stems to create fences known as wattles. The result was a barrier made entirely from living wood, strong enough to hold livestock while still allowing wind to pass through. And hazel offers something else: food. In autumn, the trees produce clusters of hazelnuts, one of the most valuable wild foods in temperate climates. Plant them 4 to 6 feet apart, and within a few years, you will have a thick hedge that provides privacy, structure, and edible harvests. For anyone who wants a living boundary that feeds both people and wildlife, hazel becomes the woven guardian of the land. But while hazel fences are strong, the next plant on this list became famous for something much more dramatic: It created a barrier so powerful that farmers once described it with 3 words: horse high, bull strong, pig tight. Number 4, Osage orange, the frontier barrier. Before barbed wire covered the American West, settlers needed a way to fence enormous open lands. Wooden fencing was expensive. Stone walls were impossible across vast prairies. Then farmers discovered Osage orange. This thorny tree produced branches armed with long, rigid spikes that animals quickly learned to avoid. When planted close together, the branches tangled into a hedge so dense that even determined livestock could not force their way through. Farmers described a mature Osage orange hedge as horse-high, bull-strong, and pig-tight. Demand for the plant exploded during the 1800s. Entire nurseries were dedicated to growing Osage orange seedlings so settlers could fence their new farms. But there was one problem. The hedges took time to grow. Farmers needed fences faster than the trees could mature. That demand eventually led to the invention of barbed wire in 1874. Barbed wire was literally created because Osage orange hedges could not be planted quickly enough to fence the expanding frontier. Even today, the tree remains famous for its incredibly durable wood and its formidable defensive thorns. For anyone who wants the same living barrier that once protected entire homesteads, Osage orange is the frontier fence that shaped American history. But Osage orange protects mostly with thorns. The next plant protects with something much simpler: speed. Number 3, hybrid willow, the speed champion. Plant breeders searching for fast-growing trees discovered that certain willow species could be crossed to create hybrids with extraordinary growth rates. The result was hybrid willow. Under good conditions, these trees can grow 6 to 10 feet in a single year, transforming bare ground into a dense privacy screen in record time. Their root systems remain fibrous rather than invasive, making them far less problematic than aggressive plants like running bamboo. Hybrid willows also tolerate both wet soil and temporary drought once established, making them adaptable across many climates. Plant them 5 feet apart, and within 2 growing seasons, the trees knit together into a thick living wall of green foliage. For landowners who need privacy quickly without complicated planting methods, hybrid willow becomes the speed champion that fills space faster than almost anything else. But even hybrid willow is not the fastest practical screen growers have discovered. The next plant rises upward like a rocket, creating towering privacy in only a few seasons. Number 2, hybrid poplar, the vertical rocket. Hybrid poplars are created by crossing different poplar species to combine their strongest traits: fast growth, strong structure, and adaptable roots. The results are astonishing. Young trees often grow 5 to 8 feet every year, forming tall, dense screens that can hide buildings, roads, and neighboring properties within just a few seasons. Their broad leaves create thick summer foliage that blocks nearly all visibility through the canopy. Unlike many aggressive plants, hybrid poplars keep their roots relatively contained and do not spread uncontrollably across neighboring land. Bare root seedlings are inexpensive and establish easily when planted in early spring. Plant them 8 feet apart, and within 3 years, you can have a towering green privacy wall that required almost no construction materials. For anyone who wants rapid screening with minimal effort, hybrid poplar is the vertical rocket racing toward the sky. But one plant still remains. And this final living fence might be the most balanced solution of them all: fast-growing, evergreen, and incredibly resilient. Number 1, Thuja Green Giant, the unstoppable screen. When the United States National Arboretum introduced Thuja Green Giant in the late 1960s, few people realized how quickly it would become one of the most recommended privacy trees in North America. This hybrid combines the strength of Western red cedar with the resilience of Japanese arbor vitae. The result is a tree that grows 3 to 5 feet per year while maintaining a naturally dense pyramidal shape. Unlike many evergreens, Thuja Green Giant tolerates both cold winters and hot summers. Deer rarely bother it, pests rarely damage it, and disease problems are almost non-existent. Plant them 5 to 6 feet apart, and the branches quickly merge into a continuous evergreen wall. And because the foliage stays green year-round, your privacy fence never disappears in winter the way deciduous hedges do. For homeowners who want something reliable, fast, and easy to maintain, Thuja Green Giant becomes the unstoppable screen that quietly grows into place. These plants represent centuries of forgotten agricultural wisdom. Long before hardware stores sold metal panels and plastic fencing, farmers protected their homes using living barriers that improved the land instead of covering it. Some of those hedges are still standing today. Nature has always known how to build fences. Sometimes we just forget to look.